Our News on Terror segment tonight. Every 90 days, the Trump administration is required to certify that Iran is complying with the JCPOA, commonly known as the Iran nuke deal. For the second time, President Trump's State Department confirmed Iran's compliance. They confirmed compliance once before as well, in April. But why confirm compliance when Iran is so blatantly violating multiple tenets of this deal? With me now, from the Center for Security Policy, former CIA analyst Fred Fleitz. Fred, thanks for being here.
Good to be here, Liz.
All right, Fred, the deadline for this confirmation of compliance was yesterday, the 17th of July. Trump's State Department did confirm that Iran supposedly is complying. My question to you is that true? Is Iran complying?
It's not true. Iran is in violation of the agreement in several ways. It is not letting the IAEA inspect military facilities. It's producing too much heavy water, which is needed to make plutonium-producing heavy water reactors. It also is exceeding how much enriched uranium it can produce, and there is information from German intelligence that it is actually cheating on the agreement. And this isn't just me talking. Senators Cruz, Perdue, and one other senator, I've forgotten his name, recently wrote a letter to Senator Trump laying out these violations, which are not minor. It's not a close call.
Right, and if I'm not mistaken, that's 4 fairly obvious violations then. I mean, the only reason that you would store and produce as much heavy water as Iran is if you have nuclear ambitions here. The only reason you'd have such high-efficiency centrifuges is to produce nuclear material here. The fact that they were caught by a German intelligence agency trying to procure missile technology, I guess I don't understand why the Trump administration would certify that they're complying. They're not.
And the certification is 2 things. First, that Iran is complying, and second, that the agreement is in U.S. national interests. Even if Iran was complying, since it's allowed to enrich uranium during the agreement and to develop advanced centrifuges and to operate a heavy water reactor, it's getting closer to a nuclear weapon. These were outrageous concessions made by the Obama administration, and for that reason, this agreement clearly is not in the national interest of the United States.
No, and that brings me to my next question. There are reports that President Trump is not a fan of certifying this compliance, that he wasn't a fan of it in April, and he wasn't again yesterday in July. So why are they doing it, Fred?
Well, that's a great question. Yesterday was a wild day. At the beginning of the day, Trump's senior advisors thought they had a package to certify the agreement and throw some sanctions in to keep their president happy. There was a noon conference call with the NSC that I participated in, and based on that call, which went very badly, and an op-ed by Ambassador John Bolton, the president changed his mind, and his advisors argued with him for hours until late last evening when the president basically said, okay, for now we're certifying. But frankly, Liz, in my opinion, this deal, the days are numbered for it. I think the president is going to get out of it.
Well, I mean, I certainly hope so. It's a danger not only to American interests, but interest in the Middle East and our allies in the Middle East. Let me ask you to name a few names here, though. If you're talking about senior advisors who want to certify this compliance, trying to convince the president who doesn't want to certify, who are these people that are trying to push him to certify compliance?
Well, we know that National Security Advisor McMaster, Secretary of State Tillerson, and Secretary of Defense Mattis have all said that we have to stay in the agreement. They're worried that we might offend the Europeans, that we can't put sanctions back. First of all, Europe did not vote for this president. They don't make our laws, and we can put sanctions back, especially on transfers of nuclear technology. But they're the 3 big officials who would like us to stay in the agreement. I understand CIA Director Pompeo and some other officials, I'm not sure who, think we have to get out of it.
Right, and let me ask you this. If we did pull out of this, if we refused to certify that Iran was complying and saying because of that violation we are no longer beholden to this agreement, what would those consequences be? What are they afraid of?
I mean, they're arguing that Europe will be upset. Iran is not going to cooperate with the agreement. Iran's behavior will get worse. Well, as you and I have talked about, we're talking about Iran's behavior getting even worse because it's gotten much worse since the agreement was put in place. What I'd like to see is we get out of the agreement, we start talks on a new anti-Iran coalition that includes our allies in the Middle East. Something that the American people don't know about is that the Gulf states and Israel were not consulted about this agreement. They had no input. It was just dumped on them, even though Iran is a much bigger threat to them than to us or to the Europeans. Let's have a new agreement that includes all the states that could be affected by Iran, and let's start this as soon as possible.
Right, and I think perhaps the most important question, and hopefully this is being considered at least partially by the Trump administration and his advisors, is has Iran stopped their behavior? Have they stopped pursuing nuclear technology, or has this agreement slowed them down in any way, shape, or form since it went into effect?
Well, I mean, I think in some ways it's slowed them down, but we know from German intelligence they're trying to acquire technologies to make centrifuges and other things that they're not supposed to be doing under the agreement. And since the IAEA can't inspect nuclear facilities, we don't know what's going on there. And many of us believe that Iran has outsourced nuclear weapons work to North Korea.
Right.
Since the inspectors can't go anywhere they want in Iran, we just don't know.
Right. The inspectors have to get permission from the Iranians before they inspect the Iranians' own facilities, which is insane, obviously. Fred, I appreciate you coming on the show. I mean, I'm disappointed to hear that this was certified in compliance, but hopefully, like you said, this won't be too long before it's reversed.